Good morning and welcome to Sports Central, brought to you live and exclusive on Spectrum Television, all the way from the beautiful hills of Ibiakuren, right here in God's own state, Kwaba Sibom State. My name is Mfonobong Itina, excited to be on your screens this morning, bringing you the latest stories in the world of sport. A lot of exciting stories scattered across all sporting activities. Tennis at the conclusive end now, no tour level competition expected at least till the end of the Formula One. All heads are turning to the penultimate Grand Prix of the season, the Qatar Grand Prix, which would come up this weekend. Likes of Lando Norris, Piastri, as well as Max Verstappen, all clamoring and fighting for glory. We also look at football, where we've got news that at the UEFA Europa League yesterday night, we had Nottingham Forest finally getting their first win in Europe this particular season. Also in basketball, the D Tigers of Nigeria fell to the Tunisian counterpart in what was their first game of the World Cup qualification. And many asking questions. This is the same side in football, Tunisia, when Nigeria would face at AFCON. Is it going to be the same fate for the Super Eagles of Nigeria? Well, I would find out in December. But for now, we're saying welcome to Sports Central. We'll just take a quick breather. And when we're back, Sport Wrap-Up will be brought to you. Stay tuned. Oh, thanks for staying tuned. We'll go to Sport Wrap-Up immediately, and we'll start from basketball, when Nigeria's D Tigers began their chase for 2027 FIBA Men's World Cup ticket on the wrong footing yesterday, losing 88-78 in overtime to host Tunisia in the first game of the first phase of the qualifiers. Following a difficult trip to Tunisia, arriving just a few hours before the only training session, head coach Mohamed Abdurrahman started Jordan Ogundiron, Captain Ikenwa Mustan Okoye, Talib Zana, and Chris Obekba from his 12-man roster of overseas and domestic players. The Tigers started on the front foot, going 5-0 up in the opening stages. Zana led the charge with a three-pointer, followed by 2 points from Captain Nwamu. The Tunisians, however, leveled and led 8-5 inside 5 minutes, but Nigeria managed to win the first quarter at 15-12. Ogundiron made it 17-12 at the start of the second quarter, but Tunisia crawled back into the game, sealing the quarter at 23-17 to take a 35-32 lead into the break. The affair became tense in the third quarter, with Nigeria trailing for much of the period, but they managed to win it 21-18 and level the game at 53-all. The Tigers dominated the fourth quarter and held the lead for most of the 10 minutes, but they let it slip in the closing stages, allowing Omar Abada and Usama Manui to set Tunisia up for a 73-70 lead before Okoye restored parity with 15 seconds remaining and sent the game into overtime. Abada, who scored a game high of 29 points, continued to lead Tunisia's charge in overtime, and their firepower proved too much for the D Tigers, who surrendered the game 88-78. And now to the octagon, when MMA Paddy Pimblett will fight Justin Gaethje for the interim lightweight title at UFC 324 in Las Vegas on the 24th of January next year. The bout between Liverpool's Pimblett and American's Gaethje has been set up after champion Ilia Topuria revealed he will not fight in the first quarter of 2026 because of a difficult moment in his personal life. Pimblett, who has a record of 23 wins and just 3 losses, will throw down with Gaethje, who has 26 wins and 5 losses in the showpiece bout of UFC 324 in the Sin City Showdown, announced by UFC chief Dana White late yesterday night. Prior to his win over Chandler, Pimblett rallied off 6 straight UFC wins, including a decision over Tony Ferguson and a submission of Bobby Green. The winner of the interim bout is expected to face Topuria in a unification bout later in 2026. The co-main event sees American bantamweight champion Kayla Harrison make the first defense of her title against Brazil's former double champion Amanda Nunes. UFC Hall of Famer Nunes makes her return from retirement after leaving the sport in 2023 with the chance to become women's bantamweight champion for the third time. And now to boxing, where it's been revealed that Nigeria will host the inaugural African Boxing Congress and Boxing Gala Night on Sunday, December 28, 2025, which will bring together representatives from over 20 affiliated national federations from across Africa to Lagos. The Nigeria Boxing Federation, under the leadership of Honorable Wale Dun, secured the hosting rights for the landmark event from Africa Boxing, the governing body for the continent's boxing confederation and an arm of world boxing. In a letter to the NBF, African Boxing described Nigeria as a strategic nation with the capacity to lead a holistic advancement of the squared rope sport in the continent. The letter also announced the appointment of NBF Vice President Honorable Omonle Imadu as a member of the African Boxing Working Committee with additional responsibility as head of organization for the forthcoming Congress. The hosting rights place Nigeria in pole position to emerge as the host nation for the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics boxing qualifiers in Africa. Now to football, where it's a new dawn as Super Eagles captain William Troost-Ekong has announced his retirement from international football following Nigeria's failure to qualify for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. The decision came shortly after the team's defeat to DR Congo in the final round of the CAF World Cup playoffs. According to information obtained exclusively by Score Nigeria, Ekong informed his teammates of his decision in the dressing room after the match. The defender noted that he would still travel to Morocco, where Nigeria would participate in the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations, but only in a supportive capacity. He wished the squad success in the tournament he had hoped to lead them into. Ekong's retirement marks the end of a significant era for the national team. This year makes a decade since the central defender made his Super Eagles debut in an African qualifier against Chad in Kaduna. He later formed a formidable partnership with Leon Balogun, a duo famously dubbed the Oyibo Wall, as Nigeria secured qualification for the 2018 World Cup in Russia. The pinnacle of Ekong's international career came during the delayed 2023 AFCON in Côte d'Ivoire, where he was named the tournament's most valuable player, despite Nigeria's finishing as runners-up to the host. Now still in football, but to Europe, where Nottingham Forest breezed past Malmo in the Europa League to strengthen their grip on a playoff place. Skipper Ryan Yates, Arnold Kalimwendo and Nikola Milenkovic scored to ensure a comfortable win in a repeat of the 1979 European Cup final when Forest beat the 24-time Swedish champions. Forest recorded 3 successive wins for the first time since the turn of the year to drop off in their form during the second half of last season, which was the reason why they are in the Europa League and not the Champions League. But they are now 2 points off the top 8 automatic qualification for the last 16 with 3 games left. Now for Nottingham Forest, Sondage has wrestled control of a combustible situation after Nuno Espirito Santo was sacked, having fallen out with global sporting director the man Edu was signed from Arsenal in honor Evangelos Marinakis before his replacement Ange Postecoglou lasted just 39 days. Saturday's 3-0 win at Flandre Liverpool lifted them out of the Premier League relegation zone, and the victory against Malmo at the City Ground took them to 16th in the Europa League table and in line for the playoffs to reach the last 16. Oh, these are all the stories we have for you and wrap up this morning, but not to worry, we'll take just a quick break, and when we're back, Sports Central continues.
Hello, good morning and welcome to Sports Central, returning live on your screens this morning with a whole lot of topical conversation surrounding the world of sports, returning a weekend it is, particularly with matches across different leagues. Right here on the continent of Africa, we're already talking about the CAF Champions League group stage match week 2, where Rivers United will be playing today at the Goslar Pub International Stadium. We'll also look at other leagues, the Spanish La Liga, the Italian Serie A, and even the French Ligue 1 have some matches today as they're looking forward to more matches tomorrow, Saturday, and even the next day, which will be Sunday, as well across different climes as well. I'm UT David, and I'm so delighted to return on your screens for Sports Central this morning, highlighting and also, of course, emphatically discussing what's happening in the exciting world of sport. Earlier, you saw Fonitina, so together we'll be doing justice to what's happening in the world of sports this morning. Fon, good morning to you. Exciting time to be back.
Good morning, UT. Good morning, listeners, viewers. Quite an exciting day to be back on the show.
Well, let's quickly begin the conversation from the world of sports this morning. Quickly from the world of basketball, as there have been attention gradually getting through to the D Tigers of Nigeria as they are currently playing what many would term their qualifiers, particularly. At the moment, we're actually looking at the 2027 FIBA Men's World Cup qualifiers. Nigeria started their qualifiers yesterday, but unfortunately started on the losing note, losing 88 to 78 points in overtime to host side. Talk about Tunisia and this particular qualifiers. Difficult start. First of all, started with a difficult trip to Tunisia, arriving just few hours before the only training session they had ahead of the game against Tunisia. The Tigers started on the front foot, leading at some points, but unfortunately, even when the game was balanced in terms of the points by both sides, went on overtime, but Nigeria collapsed in overtime to Tunisia, and Tunisia got the result at the end of it. Well, many would say still more games to play, but it could also be consequential, looking at the very fact that it could also have a part to negatively play on the players, or even positively as they get to respond positively in their next game scheduled for later on Saturday. But let's look at this game against Tunisia in front. Quite a very poor start to life for the D Tigers side. They didn't lose poorly. They actually stood their grounds until overtime, where they unfortunately collapsed. But this is actually a very big call that they ought to do better in their second game. First game of the qualifiers, first defeat for the side.
Well, I think Coach Mohamed Abdurrahman and his side definitely have a lot to do, because when you look at what many expected from this D Tigers side, people expected them to at least do us maybe as well as what we saw with the D Tigers. But now starting the qualifying series on a very bad note, I feel more is expected from this side. So definitely we should expect more from the D Tigers, because the next game should not be another loss for them. And Mohamed Abdurrahman understands, is the captain of the side. Iken Wamo as well understands this. So it's going to take a lot for the D Tigers of Nigeria to put behind this particular loss. We've seen in recent times, when it comes to qualifying series, I think it's always important how you start. Look at how the Super Eagles of Nigeria started their World Cup qualification series. Started quite poorly, and at the end we had to push through a lot of hurdles to get to the end of it. So right now, I would just say it's going to be, we're going to need a massive response from the D Tigers of Nigeria. Losing to Tunisia in the first game by 10 points in overtime, but then when you look at how it panned out in the regulation time, it was quite close. In fact, they tied it at 73 to 73. So when you look at such a game, you would expect that maybe the Super Eagles of the D Tigers of Nigeria are not so far away in quality, and also putting side by side the fact that this side arrived and Tunisia very late, just had one training session. The Tunisian counterpart had lots of training sessions before this particular game, and now you'd expect more from the Nigerians. But let's see what happens in the next game. Abdurrahman has his work cut out for him. With a 12-man squad, he has a blend of overseas players and home-based players. Come on, he has the array of talent to choose from. And this is not really that humongous competition where you have top teams. Nigeria can compete with the likes of Tunisia. Come on. So I'm expecting Nigeria to respond well to this loss in the opening game.
Well, of course, a game to look forward to basically for the D Tigers of Nigeria. And just like I said earlier, the next game would be against Guinea on Saturday. Then that particular game will be a game that could also set them back on track. If you look at where they are, they currently stand 8th in FIBA's African Power Rankings. And the Confederation, that's the Federation, has stressed that these qualifiers are very crucial in their quest of restoring their status with the ones enjoyed, particularly in the world of basketball. So wishing the boys all the best as we're looking forward to the next game against Guinea later on Saturday. Well, let's quickly move away from that now and look at other conversations. A track and field conversation this morning. It has to do with a Nigerian sprinter in Aruna. We hear she has actually joined Arizona State University. We've actually had a whole lot of, Nigerian athletes in recent times who've also graduated from the United States. The likes of Ezekiel being part of that particular, conversation. But ahead of next athletics season, we hear Nigeria's presence in the National Collegiate Athletic Association keeps growing with the addition of fast-rising sprinter, talk about Anita Inaruna, to Arizona State University. The Arizona State Sun Devils announced her signing on Wednesday, and this could also in turn help our level of development and exposure to even foreign and quality facilities to represent the country even better. She's actually 19 years of age. She actually, runs in the 200-meter and 400-meter event, rose to prominence for Africa, for Nigeria at the Joint Confederation of African Athletics Under-18 and Under-20 Championships, which was held in Abeokuta in July. Well, many would say for a good move for her, and a move that could also broaden the level of exposure she has in the track and field event.
Well, at 19, I think joining Arizona State University is a very huge plus for her. It's a step in the right direction for her development as a sprinter. She just competed at the just concluded Islamic Games, where she, created a new personal best for herself, finished 6th in the final of the 200 meters, but one gold for Nigeria in the mixed 4x400 meters. So I would say the future is quite bright for Anita. And now with Arizona State University, we know the facilities they have there. We know it's not the same thing like we have in Nigeria. So definitely, I think a lot of Nigerians will be expecting the name Anita Inaruna to become one of the household names, maybe in 2-3 years now to come, because we've seen Nigerians who've joined the collegiate system in America, how they've been trained. Talking about Ezekiel for Baylor University, talking about lots of superstars now. So I feel Anita Inaruna definitely in 2 years, 3 years from now, would start banking on her to maybe come back home and deliver some medals for Nigeria at the All-African Games, talking about the Commonwealth Games, talking about World Championships, and even the Olympics at large. So for Anita Inaruna, let's step in the right direction. Let's say a journey of 1,000 miles begin with a step. So let's hope that this is the first step for Anita Inaruna. Let's see what happens in the future.
A big step for the lady Inaruna, and we're looking forward to see what gets to happen for her in the future. And this in turn also make her force to reckon with, not just on the continent of Africa, but even on the international stage when we talk about international athletics competition and even representing Nigeria at the big stage as well. All the best is what we're wishing at the moment. But let's quickly look at other conversation. There is a competition currently up and running. We're talking about, of course, the West Africa Para Games. As a matter of fact, the long-standing sporting rivalry among Nigeria, Ghana, talk about Cameroon, is set to take center stage once again. As a maiden West African Zone A, B Para Games is set to officially kick off in Abeokuta, Ogun State, according to reports. A regional championship we here will begin, of course, began yesterday rather, and will run through December 4. It's actually a large continental showpiece of athletes and officials from different countries. Ghana, talk about Cameroon, Benin Republic, Togo, Niger Republic, and even Nigeria being the host country, also being part of this particular event. So expecting the Nigerian contingent led by the president of the Paralympic Committee of Nigeria to do better and also ensure effective representation for Team Nigeria. The inaugural games will feature, we hear, about 12 sports, including para-athletics, para-swimming, para-powerlifting, para-table tennis, wheelchair basketball, sitting volleyball, amputee football, para-canoeing, wheelchair tennis, para-badminton, para-arm wrestling, and even para-shooting as well. So it's all encompassing about 12 sports, and we're just wishing the Nigerian team all the best as we're looking forward to this particular competition go left, right, and center. But let's quickly head straight now to the world of boxing, where Nigeria will host the African Boxing Congress. The inaugural edition of it and Boxing Gala Night on Sunday, December 28, 2025, which we hear will bring together representatives from over 20 affiliated national federations from across Africa to Lagos. First part, of course, will be about the very fact that some of these, of course, African Boxing Federation will also get to of course, convert right in the shores of a country for a Boxing Gala Night. And this, we hear, would be on December 28, 2025, bringing together representatives from over 20 affiliated national federations from across Africa to Lagos. And this is also in turn further exposing our local boxers to something very handy on the continent.
I would say quite commendable by the Nigerian Boxing Federation, because they've done quite well, you know, bringing such a, tournament to Nigeria. The first edition of it is quite commendable, and I think the Nigerian Boxing Federation deserves all the praise they can get at the moment. And also, during the award, I think during the gala night, they are going to honor the Nigerian Boxing Federation chairman as, the chairman when it comes to African category now. So he's gone further than just being at the national scene. Congratulations to the man, he's done quite well. And also for this particular competition puts Nigeria in pole position to host the qualifiers for the Olympics. So now it gives us an opportunity to have more boxers present during the qualifier for the Olympics. That means we can have up to 3 boxers at the Olympics. So I would say a step in the right direction for the Boxing Federation, and hopefully we get to reap the benefits of this at the Olympics.
Well, a step in the right direction. The next Olympics 2028, so of course still some time to actually prepare and ensure that Nigerian boxers are ready. And not just, of course, ready, we would also have the backing of the federations, because we do not want to have, of course, what's happening in the football federations in recent times across our national teams to happen in the world of boxing as well. Well, we also hear that Plimblet is set to fight Gadje for interim title in January is the conversation. There have been a series of fights that has been scheduled for January next year. So Paddy Blimbet will fight Justin Gadget for the interim lightweight title at the UFC 324 in Las Vegas on January 24, 2026. The Liverpoolian destroyed fan favorite Michael Chandler in April, which has earned him a crack at interim, of course, category rather. So this is actually a fight to look forward to, but not the biggest of fights particularly, but I think want to look out for particularly for these two boxers.
Well, I think in the UFC, Paddy Pimblett and Gadje now in their category, lightweight category, Pimblett is ranked 5 and Gadje is ranked at number 4. So definitely, I think it's top of the table crack now for both superstars. And Ilia Tupuria is the current champion, and he's currently undergoing divorce proceedings with his wife. So we know how that takes a toll on a superstar. He has to take time off, stay with his family, and also get in the right frame of mind before he returns to fighting, because you cannot be fighting when your mind is not right there in the sport. So for Pimblett and Gadje, I think it's going to be quite a cracker. Gadje has never been in a very dull fight himself. All his fights are always very entertaining. So this is definitely going to be very entertaining for lovers of the sport. January, quite a long time for now. We still have time to prepare for it. So for Paddy Pimblett, his very first shot at the title. Gadje has been an interim title holder before he got beaten for it by Khabib, and so right now it's going to be his second shot. So for Pimblett, let's see if he can do it at the first time of asking.
Can he do it? Pimblett is a big question right there, but we're looking forward to see, just like he said, January, some of course months from now. So fingers crossed as we look forward to preparations by both fighters. But we hit the brakes right here. When we return, we'll talk about football conversation across the globe, as we're looking forward to another entertaining weekend where it would be one of the biggest matches talked about in England. Chelsea against Arsenal, who is the King of London. A big question right there. We'll return after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. It is your Sports Central right here on Spectrum Television. And of course, I'm fun to see you right here with me together. We're doing justice to what's happening in the world of sports. But now we'll be heading straight now into football. The conversation about football today first starts with the CAF Champions League match week 2. Well, there will be several matches across different centers, but our sole focus this morning will be a Nigerian side, the only Nigerian representative at the group stage of the CAF Champions League this season. Rivers United will be playing their second game today, 5 p.m. Nigerian time, against another North African giant. Talk about Aris Bakan at the Nest of Champions. And these further false questions as regards whether or not Rivers United can get their first 3 points of the season in the CAF Champions League. Well, the first game of this particular season for Rivers United, they lost, and to a large extent, it has been so worrisome for Coach Finidi George to overcome another North African side. But today, just like Finidi George has said, one has scored a viral. A few players also spoken to the media about their confidence heading into this game at the Nest of Champions. For fun, is it possible for Rivers United to get maximum 3 points? About 2 teams in that group have already gotten 3 points apiece, and those are 2 quality teams in that particular group. Can Rivers United do it against Aris Bakan today?
Well, an uphill battle for Finidi George and the lads, but I'm sure they're signed up for it. You know, in the CAF Champions League, not the CAF Confederation Cup. This is the elite level of CAF competition. So definitely, they knew it was going to be a tough battle for them. When you're facing the likes of Pyramids FC, defending champions, Aris Bakan, who won the CAF Confederation Cup last season. So definitely, it's going to be a tough test for this side, talking about Rivers United. But Finidi George should be up to it. The players of the side as well, because when you look at it, it's quite difficult for them, but here at the Nest of Champions, should be easier compared to when they went away from home to Pyramid FC in Egypt, because now you have the home advantage. For Finidi George, he has to make a statement of intent. You lost the first game by 3-0. It's not just enough to win against Aris Bakan. How about reducing that goal difference? Because at the end of it, we're talking about, a table format. At the end of it, you're going to determine a goal difference, point, and all of that. So I think it's not just about winning against Aris Bakan. They should also try to score as many goals as possible. If you can score 3, good enough. You eliminate the first 3 goals you conceded. Let's see what Rivers United have in store for us.
Well, let's see what Rivers United have in store for us. Can they get their first 3 points of the season? A big question right there we're looking forward to see, especially for Rivers United. But let's quickly move away now to the Super Falcons conversation. But just before then, we'll take another breather, and when we return, we'll definitely be looking at what former Super Falcons head coach, Coach Randy Waldrum, is saying after leaving the post as coach of the side. Welcome back. Of course, we're still talking about former Super Falcons head coach, Coach Randy Waldrum. Well, the former Super Falcons coach has actually questioned and raised new questions to the NFF as regards how they handled funds in the 2023 Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand. Well, in the video trending online, there have been, of course, series of statements made by Coach Randy Waldrum claiming that FIFA had released $960,000 for the team's build-up to the tournament in October 2022. He questioned what happened to the funds and actually suggested the team did not receive proper support during preparations. But Nigeria actually reached the round of 16 of the World Cup in 2023. But he said there were several challenges. He said poor organization affected the team and expressed disappointment that training camps were not arranged in good time for the Super Falcons of Nigeria. He also recalled that the Super Falcons traveled to Japan for a friendly under difficult conditions, with some key players arriving only a few hours before the match after long flight. Wardrum actually described this as a missed opportunity to prepare as the team returned immediately without using the window for proper training. Well, there have been a whole lot of conversations surrounding the NFF. Recently, at the just concluded FIFA World Cup playoffs in Morocco, where Nigeria unfortunately lost to DR Congo, the Super Eagles players went on a few-day strike, of course, demanding for their rights. Otherwise, they shouldn't have trained for that particular game against DR Congo, only for the NFF to respond a couple of hours later, and the boys returned to training. The Super Falcons earlier this week also, of course, railed out a very stringent statement about the NFF, also saying, if our bonuses are not paid, the backlog of bonuses and arrears are not paid, we may not just be honoring the next international window that can actually be consequential for the Super Falcons' growth. And now Coach Randy Wardrum is saying over $960,000 was given in preparation for the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup. What did you do with the money? This is what the man is saying at the moment. Well, fun, it has been, of course, more like a recurring decimal in the NFF, having to, of course, have major speculations. Gunnar also had his own fair share. At some point where he was actually a Super Eagles manager. And this is Coach Gunnar Raw. He's also said in the USA, if the United States of America Football Federation had actually done this, the United States citizens will actually ask questions and they would actually come and answer. And he also said that in Nigeria, question marks are not asked about, of course, corruption, especially in the NFF. And the man is actually asking the NFF questions about what these funds were actually used for. So this actually means the preparations to the 2023 World Cup, where the Super Falcons finished in the round of 16, they would have actually done better if those monies were actually utilized properly. And these for the best questions about transparency in the NFF.
Well, I think we keep talking about transparency, but we're not getting any results. We're not getting any, what would I call it now, follow-up for that transparency by the NFF, because we keep having discussions like this. We see time and time again talking about the Nigerian Football Federation having to siphon money meant for other things. Just recently, like you talked about at the World Cup qualifier playoffs, we had the Super Eagles of Nigeria threatening to boycott the match, boycotted training that particular day. So I think it just happens time and time. And recently, the Cameroon F has also had this kind of issues. It's just an African thing. And I think it's time to move on. Come on, when you get money for competitions, it's just better for you, because these are the players fighting for the money. The other ones putting their sweat out there. They are putting their bodies on the line. You are just people in offices with a pen and a paper, and then you sign over something and get the money. Then instead of releasing it for these players, you now siphon into your pocket. I think that's not fair, and that's why Randy Rodrum has come out. I get happy when I hear things like this. Embarrass them in public. I still remember was it the Olympics or thereabout? But I think I remember there was a female competition where after what happened, the committee said they would pay the money directly to the players. Forgotten, was it the Olympics or the World Cup itself? They said they would pay the money directly to the account of the players. It hasn't happened like that before. It was because of Nigeria. So I think it's just people need to speak out more, talk about this, because when these international bodies understand that this money doesn't get to the players, they'll definitely do something about it. The NFF will not do anything. They keep eating this money. They keep taking the money for their personal use. But as soon as FIFA understands that the money they're being, the money they give for things like this are not being utilized properly, trust me, they'll find a way to do something about it. So I'm happy that Randy Wardrum is coming out to see it. I just hope more people who've been in places where they understand that this money is being used for some other thing would come out to talk. We have to speak up. Just like Randy Wardrum said, in certain clubs you wouldn't have this. Why are you using money meant for players for yourself? That's the thing, because you're also getting paid. So why are you withholding money meant for something else? So that's the big issue. I just hope in a few years to come we'll stop talking about ugly issues like this.
$960,000 to the Matid Naira. That's over 1 billion naira, as a matter of fact. The NFF, we ought to do better. Which Coach Randy Wardrum with his questions Of course, I believe that there should be answers. Accountability has been the major talking points right here. Without being accountable and transparent, it might just, of course, go down affecting, yes, national team's performance. The man even stated that prior to the World Cup, didn't house proper scouts, didn't even, of course, also have a technical analyst in the tournament. He had to rely on videos to face his next opponent at the World Cup. So that shows you how bad and preparations it was actually for the national team at the time where he was the coach of the Super Falcons of Nigeria. But let's quickly move away from that now and look at other conversations. It has to do with preparations for the AFCON. 23 days before the start of the AFCON, scheduled for December. But we hear that CAF have appointed 73 referees for the AFCON. But the sad conversation is that no Nigerian referee has been selected for the AFCON, and he keeps feeling question marks about what exactly is wrong with Nigerian referees. Where are they getting it wrong? What exactly has been the problem? Is it a case of the poor start of the league? Is it a case of Nigerian referees not being good enough? Is it a case of not getting, yes, equal license as regards other nations on the continent of Africa? Once again, the Nigerian name has been omitted. This is something we've seen over time, so is it more or less a recurring decimal as well in African football? We don't even want to talk about international assignment, but even continental assignment. I mean, you barely see a Nigerian referee, and it has happened once again.
Well, I think it's just the situation with Nigerian referees, but just like I always say, I think we have to keep, the same vein we used to criticize the Nigerian referees in time past, they're doing better. I think it's more of a licensing issue now, because you cannot tell me the Nigerian referees are still as corrupt as they used to be. And before, I think it was the circumstances that made them that way, because when your welfare is being catered to by the home team, everything about you is being catered to by the home team, you wouldn't dare go against them. But recently we've had a referee board in Nigeria who cater to everything. The league management committee they make sure the referees are in good condition ahead of the games, and that's what we've had. And we see teams now struggling to get wins. A team like Akwa United wouldn't have been relegated if it was 2020. A team like Akwa United wouldn't be relegated in 2017, because they would have won at least bulk of their home games, but they struggle to win home games. It shows you that the referees are stepping up to the plate. I just hope that bulk of them get to go out there and get much of this license. Remember, just recently we had a coach in Nigeria not being able to sit at the dugout because he didn't have the license for CAF competition. So that's just the same thing, coaching and refereeing. These referees, they need to go out there, get your license so that you can, go represent Nigeria at intercontinental, assignments.
But we wish all of these will change in no distant time for Nigeria referees. We ought to be there as the giants of Africa. Well, not just the giants of Africa for anything. We have to show it in all aspects of human endeavors. But let's quickly move away from that and look at the just concluded Under-17 FIFA Men's World Cup, where Portugal won the FIFA Under-17 World Cup title yesterday, beating Austria 1-0 in the final of a 48-nation tournament where European teams took the first 3 places. Benfica forward Ancio Cabral narrowly stayed onside to receive a pass across the goal mouth and score into an empty net at the 32nd minute, and that was the difference between both nations. It was Portugal's first Under-17 title and came in the 20th edition of an event FIFA has expanded and now organizes annually instead of every 2 years. Nigeria, unfortunately, we were not here, but that's just what it is at the moment. Congratulations to the Portugal Under-17 side. Other nations have to learn and follow suit from here. But let's quickly head straight now to the UEFA Europa League and, of course, look at actions that happened across different centers. Aston Villa played yesterday, as a matter of fact. Well, of course, it was a game that saw the opponents, that's the Young Boys fans, coming of attacking Aston Villa fans. Well, after the game, they apologized for what many would term a chaotic scene in the game involving Young Boys and Aston Villa. Well, at the end, Aston Villa were able to get victory in this one. It had a 2-1 in favor of the Villains. Away from that, we also had other games. Celtic recording comeback win away at Ruben van Persie's Feyenoord side. Well, Feyenoord have gotten just 1 win in the Europa League after 5 matches this season. It is Van Persie's side, and it shows you not every good players made good coaches. And Feyenoord, under the tutelage of Ruben van Persie this season, are suffering in Europe.
Oh, they did well. They did quite well last season.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a blip in form, or maybe they've sold bulk of their players. Yesterday, he gave his son a debut as a competition. People were asking, "Are you doing that as a coach or as a father?" He said, "I did that as a coach because the son is a player who can score from any angle," and he brought him on in the 81st minute of that game, though he could not score anything. But still, I think for Ruben van Persie now, he's cutting his teeth in football management, and let's give him time. I would say. Competition as big as the Europa League, you don't expect Feyenoord to be heavy favorite in the game in this competition. But then I'm sure he can turn the fortunes of the side around against Celtic. Celtic are European heavyweights. They've won the the UEFA Champions League before, those as far back. But then they've won the Champions League before, so a bigger side compared to Feyenoord. Let's see if Robin van Persie will be able to change the fortunes of his side in the future.
Away from that, Nottingham Forest got a 3-0 victory over Malmo FF, and it has been more like the man Sandage beginning to find his footing at his new football club. A commanding victory over Liverpool just a couple of weeks ago, and of course a victory followed suit in the Premier League, and now another one. And it looks like Sandage knows exactly what he wants from the Nottingham Forest players.
People are saying he's very unlike Sandage. 6 goals in the last 2 games.
Absolutely.
He's known for being a defensive manager, but he's been, helping Forest score lots of goals. They scored 2 goals against Manchester United as well. So when you look at the amount of goals they've been able to score, I think Sandage has learned from his run at Burnley, at Everton, where he was being criticised for being too passive, and now he's balanced everything. When you have an attacking team, you have to take advantage of that, and I'm happy to see Nottingham Forest doing quite well. And now they've gotten 3 wins for the first time on a bounce in our competition. The last time they did that was last year. That's to show you that this run of form was not just under Ange Postecoglou. It started since as far back as Nuno Espirito Santo. 3 wins for the first time since last year. So good news for Nottingham Forest. Let's see how they can do. Now they're in the playoff spot to the next round. Let's see if they can build on that and continue the momentum.
Strasbourg defeated Crystal Palace 2-1. What an unfortunate situation for the South Londoners right there. Just yesterday, they have to do better in the next match. Coach Arne Slot ahead of this weekend has vowed to fight on as Liverpool manager. Now, the man has been, of course, so bad in terms of form this season. He has to do better if he really wants to continue as the manager of Liverpool. Later today, would have some matches in the Italian Serie A. Como will take on Sassuolo. And we'll draw the curtains here on the morning edition of Sports Central. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. Thank you very much, and fun for also being part.
As always.
Well, we return, of course, much later tomorrow for more extensive conversation in the world of football. And by then, we should also be talking about what to expect this weekend and around later game called football. I am Mutabe David, delighted as always to also be here and be part of the conversation. Have a fabulous day, and bye for now.